بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I hope everybody is doing well. As you can see, I am not using a microphone because I think there's something going on upstairs and the audio system of upstairs is connected to downstairs. So until they finish, unfortunately, I cannot use a microphone. So first of all, am I loud enough? Can you guys hear me? The guys in the back, everybody? Okay, alhamdulillah. And number two, so that I don't lose my voice, please yani, keep any conversations or chit chat just to do that outside, inshallah, so that we can, so that everybody can hear. So let's just get started into it, inshallah. Last week we introduced Surah Al-Falaq and we spoke about some of the virtues of Surah Al-Falaq. In which verse of Surah Al-Falaq does one seek refuge from the evil eye? Yes. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. Excellent, very good. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. How would the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam protect himself before going to bed? Yes? Okay, be more specific, yes? Yeah? No. Yes? Uh-huh. Excellent, very good, okay? So keep it in mind, memorize this, okay? Something that the Rasul ﷺ would do to protect himself. He would do something called ruqya. Ruqya. What does ruqya mean? It's a way of healing yourself, treating yourself, using the Quran. So it's using the Quran as a medicine. How would he do this? He would, exactly as our friends say, he would cup his hands like this, okay, put them together, and he would recite into his hands Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah Al-Falaq, and Surah An-Nas. And then he would blow 3 times into his hand, and then he would wipe his face and his head and all over his body. This is something really important. We have to make sure that we do this before we go to sleep. If you're someone who struggles with nightmares, if you're someone who you're sick and you don't know why you're sick, or you're feeling tired or whatever, then this is your cure. This is one of the cures that you can apply for yourselves. Why should one? So last week we talked about the hadith of don't look up at the one who is more fortunate than you. That rather you should look at the person who is less fortunate. And we talked about this concept of someone living in luxury. And sometimes we might look at people who are living in luxury, and you're like, oh, I wish I had the same life as them. So why should we as Muslims not have this kind of thinking? Yes. So that's one aspect of it. Okay. That's a very, very excellent point. Really good. So if I now start to look at these people who are, living a luxurious life, that's going to cause me to become ungrateful. Now I'm going to see the castle that, mashallah, they're living in, and then I'm going to look at my teeny tiny house, and I'm going to like, oh, I wish I had a bigger house. You're going to see this Lamborghini that they're driving, and then you're going to look at your old Toyota that your dad drives, and you're like, I wish I had a Lamborghini too, right? So you start not appreciating the blessings that you are in, even though in reality you're in so much blessing. And it might lead to also becoming envious, right? It might lead you to feel a sense of envy and hasad towards the person who has all of these blessings. So, and at the end of the day, as we talked about this last week, every single person, no matter how wealthy they look, no matter how much they look like they're traveling the world and they're living the dream life, every single person is struggling with something that you don't know about. Everybody has a set of difficulties. And so this is why when you see someone living a life that looks so luxurious and so much fun, don't be deceived. There's always a darker side which is hidden that you do not know about. Why is it dangerous to be ungrateful? In the back, yes? That's very good. First of all, we mentioned not being grateful is a form of minor kufr. So it's a type of kufr. Not the kufr that takes you out of Islam, but the kufr that puts you in trouble with Allah, at the very least. And a person might be punished because of their because of their ingratitude. And it could possibly also be in this world. Allah might, a person is ungrateful about their health, they're ungrateful about their wealth, they're ungrateful, and as a result, Allah tests them with the thing that they are ungrateful with, and He takes it away. It's possible. It's not always the case, but it's possible. And even if they don't face this punishment in this dunya, they will surely face something in the akhirah. And the akhirah is, of course, the punishment of the akhirah is much worse than the punishment of this world. So we have to be very careful about this and always make sure that we're doing alhamd and we're doing a shukr. We also spoke about Eid in the fiqh. How should Eid be celebrated? How do you celebrate Eid? Yes? Allahumma barik. Okay, so, you know what? I'll give it to you. You know what? I'll give it to you because I did mention that last time. But the point here, you should celebrate with your family. You should celebrate your friends with your friends as well. Okay, yani, and absolutely right. If it happens that you have school on the day of Eid, honestly, by all means, ask your parents to call the school to let your school know that you're not going to go to school, because that day is going to be a special day for you. It's a day of joy. It's a day of happiness. It's a day of celebration. You want to buy a cake, you want to go dress up, you want to go and do something fun. You can do whatever you want. Okay, well, do whatever you want as long as it's halal. Okay, so this is the point here as well. Uh, just because it's Eid and it's a day of celebration, that does not give you the excuse to start doing haram. This is actually, it might be stating the obvious, but a lot of people fall into this mistake a lot, even the adults. Subhanallah. You find them, because that it's a day of Eid, they start missing their salawat on that day. So you see them, they missed Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib prayer because we were out all day, we were visiting family, we were traveling to Banff, we were doing this and that. So you're still a Muslim, okay? So just because it's Eid, it's a day of celebration, but you're still a Muslim, you must still fulfill your obligations, okay? And similarly, just because it is Eid does not give you the right to go and indulge in haram. Listening to music is haram inside Eid and outside Eid. Being in a gathering where men and women are intermixing together, this is haram regardless inside Eid or outside of Eid. And subhanAllah, I always face this problem. People come to complain to me, usually around the times of Eid. And this actually happened last Eid. I had a parent come to me and complain about their kid. And they were complaining to me that my kid is refusing to attend any of our family Eid gatherings. And my kid is not listening to me, and he's not listening to his mother, and he's not doing this, and he's not doing oof, oof, oof. What a bad and evil kid is this, who doesn't listen to his parents, and he goes against he's supposed to celebrate Eid with the family. But when I investigated a little bit more, I sat with this kid. I was like, why aren't you listening to your parents? Why aren't you attending? He was like, my parents are trying to take me to a family gathering, where people are intermixing. Boys and girls are intermixing. People are dressed inappropriately. They have music because it's cultural. And he says, well, as a Muslim, I'm a Muslim before I am, I'm not going to state the name of the country, right? But subhanAllah, this is really important for us to understand. Just because you come from a certain culture, where you culturally celebrate Eid in a certain way, you bring musical instruments, you start banging on drums, or all of a sudden women start, going into the gathering without their hijabs and tons of makeup and short skirts, and men start sitting with women. Subhanallah, what's going on? Is this a nightclub or is this Eid? Okay, so we have to understand, Eid is a day of celebration, but that does not give you the excuse to fall into the haram. Okay? Any questions about this, by the way? We'll take some questions later, inshallah. What is the time of Eid prayer? The timing of Eid prayer, yes? Not Dhuhr, no. Yes, over there? Yeah, you? Yes? Not in Fajr prayer. You know? Yes? No, not definitely not Asr. Yes? Okay, very good. Okay. So it's the same time as not Dhuhr prayer, it's a Duha prayer. Duha. And Duha prayer begins around 15 minutes after Fajr, after sunrise, which is the, in the official terms, it's the time in which the sun reaches the height of a spear, okay, which is around 15 minutes after sunrise, until the sun reaches the meridian, which is around 15 minutes before Dhuhr. Okay, so that is the timing in which Eid prayer is prayed. Why did Rasul ﷺ go against his own opinion and go to the Uhud even though he didn't want to? Why did he decide to do that? Yes, you want to try again? We should go outside and fight because the Kuwait will think that will come out. Very good, and that was the opinion of the majority, right? So the majority of the people were suggesting no one else actually go and fight. So the Rasul ﷺ, being the great leader that he is, he decided not to force his own opinion upon people and decided to go with the opinion of the majority. Why did the older Sahaba, they remained silent and they didn't really give their opinion when the other younger Sahaba, they were saying, oh no, we should fight like brave people? Yes, in the back. They didn't want to argue in front of the Rasul ﷺ, and they didn't want to give their opinion when the Rasul ﷺ already gave his opinion. Like, who am I to now give my opinion when the Rasul ﷺ has already given his opinion? Obviously, I'm going to follow whatever the Rasul says. So that was, of course, their perspective. Let me just make sure. Are they done? Let's just test this out so that I don't have to yell the whole time. Oh, no. Never mind. We'll try again in like 15 minutes, inshallah. So anyhow, any questions about this, or can we move on? Question? So okay, let me clarify. This is a very important question. What do I mean by free mixing is not allowed? As you know, there are certain individuals, and probably the hijabis know this really well. There are certain men that you have to wear your hijab in front of, right? If it's your dad, if it's your brother, if it's your uncle, right? That's adi. You can sit in front of them without wearing your hijab because they're your blood family, they're your right? They're your mahrams. So, however, anyone who is a stranger where you have to put your hijab around, this falls into this boundary of, clearly between you and that person, there's a boundary. Okay? He's not like a blood relative. So, therefore, it is not allowed to have a gathering where men and women are sitting together. Like a man is sitting next to a woman, who's sitting next to a man, who's sitting next to a woman. This is called free mixing. And then man is speaking to a woman whom they're not really related to each other. Okay, this is called free mixing. And obviously, they're not talking about necessary topics, right? They're talking about the food that they had in the morning and the prayer that they read earlier in the morning, and they're talking about life in general, right? They're chit chatting. This is not allowed in Islam. So if there's a proper family gathering, or a gathering with friends, or anything in general, you would have maybe one room or one side of the room that's made for the ladies, and one side of the or another room, another gathering for the women. The women can chit chat and chill with them by themselves, and the men can go and sit down by themselves as well, right? So this is the proper gathering. Okay. Yes, you have a question. What do you mean by the height of the يعني so the Sahaba, the way that they measured how much the sun has risen, they would say, oh, you know how tall the spear is? Yani it's basically risen just a little bit. Okay? It's not yani as soon as you see the sun starting to rise that, oh, khalas yalla, it's time for duha prayer or for Eid prayer. No, you wait until it has risen to a certain height. Like just a little bit after you see the full disk of the sun, you wait a little bit until it rises a little bit in the sky, then you pray. Okay, so in modern estimates, this is like around 10 to 15 minutes. Other questions before I move on? So, last week we discussed, we began the discussion of the mu'awwadat. You guys still remember what does mu'awwadat mean? What is mu'awwadat again? Which surahs? Yeah? Yeah? Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas. We'll refer to them as the mu'awwadat. Okay? Because both of them, they begin with قُلْ أَعُوذُ. Because they begin with قُلْ أَعُوذُ. And we mentioned last week the blessings of these surahs. We mentioned that the Rasul ﷺ encouraged to recite them after every salah. Okay? So 5 times a day after each salah, you should be reciting Surah Al-Falaq and An-Nas along with Al-Ikhlas as well. Before going to bed, we already mentioned he used to do ruqya. Okay? And these are things that you should keep in your mind. And last week we spoke about Surah Al-Falaq, and we took it verse by verse, and we gave the translation and some of the teachings that we can extract from that surah. So today we will continue, inshaAllah, with Surah An-Nas. And of course, alhamdulillah, I think almost all of us here, we have Surah An-Nas memorized. It's a very, very easy surah. So let's dive into it, inshaAllah. Allah Azza wa Jal begins the surah by saying, very similar to the start of Surah Al-Falaq, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. قُلْ, we talked about it before. قُلْ is a command, an order, say. Okay? It's the verb to say something, and it's a command to say something. Okay? So the Rasul ﷺ is being commanded to say, أَعُوذُ, I am seeking refuge. بِرَبِّ, the ba we mentioned it's in. Rabb is the Lord. We already mentioned many times what is it? The Rabb. Okay? The one who takes care of everything. An-Nas. The word An-Nas, anywhere you see it in the Quran, it means mankind. Anytime you see the word An-Nas, it's referring to mankind. Sometimes you might find the word in the Quran Al-Ins, the same meaning as well. Al-Ins is referring to mankind as well. So قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, I am seeking refuge in the Lord of mankind. Now of course, we don't really have to specify Allah is the Rabb of everything, right? We don't have to, in general terms, I don't need to specify the Rabb of what. Because Allah is the Rabb al-Nas, Allah is the Rabb al-Jinn, Allah is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth, Allah is the Rabb of the angels, Allah is the Rabb of everything that He created. And that's what makes Him Rabbul Alameen, right? We mentioned in Surah Al-Fatiha, Rabbul Alameen, He is the Lord of everything which exists in this world. Okay? So, however, Allah Azza wa Jal is specifically telling us, seek refuge in Rabbin Nas. Rabbin Nas. Because I am from among the Nas, and I want to seek refuge in my Rabb. And so it's closer to me to say Rabbin Nas. Okay? Malikin Nas. Malik has a very close meaning to the word which we discussed in Surah Al-Fatiha, which is Maliki, right? They come from the same root word. Malikin Nas, Malik means the master or the king, okay? So if today in any of the country, if that country has a king, we usually refer to that king as Malik, Al-Malik, such and such, okay? So Allah is the king of An-Nas, the master of An-Nas, of the mankind. Now, of course, when we say Malik in this world, we're talking about just some random king who has a big fancy castle and lots of money, and he rules over a country or over a piece of land. When we are talking about Malik Nas or Al-Malik, Allah Azza wa Jal, we're talking about the one who is the king over all the kings in this world. The one who has control over every single person. You can imagine the most powerful person on this earth, Allah Azza wa Jal has authority over that person. And on the day of judgment, as we discussed in Surah Al-Fatiha, these people will all be standing equally in front of Allah. The king will be equal to the slave. The king might be powerful in this world, but on the day of judgment, he shall have no power. So I am now calling, so basically I'm saying, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, I'm seeking refuge in the Rabb of An-Nas, who is also the Malik An-Nas, the king of the mankind. Ilahin Nas. He is also Ilah An-Nas. Ilah is basically the God, okay, of An-Nas, the mankind. And if you guys remember, we covered these concepts in the when we were discussing the Aqidah. We talked about Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. We talked about Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. So now we are seeing them again. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, I'm affirming that Allah is the Rabb and He is the one who has full control over everything. He is the creator. He is the one who gave life, and He's the one who takes away life as well. And He is also the Ilah. This is Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, meaning there is nothing in existence other than Allah which is worthy of me directing my act of worship towards. Like I direct my prayers only to Allah, my adhkar only to Allah, my good deeds only to Allah, my entire life only to Allah, not to anyone else, not to any sheikh, not to even the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? And subhanallah, there is a wisdom that the scholars they teach us when it comes to when it comes to the tafsir of why Allah chose those specific qualities in Surah An-Nas. Why did He choose to teach us to say Rabb An-Nas, Rabbi An-Nas, Malik An-Nas, Ilah An-Nas? Like why these three specific qualities, divine qualities of Allah Azza wa Jal? This goes back to a concept that we discussed in Tawheed al-Asma'i wa Sifat. Wait, let's attempt it again. I don't want to keep yelling. Bismillah. They're done. Okay. Alhamdulillah. I don't have to yell anymore. What was I saying? So yes, we previously discussed a concept of using Allah's names and qualities depending on your situation, right? Remember, this is one of the wisdoms of the names of Allah Azza wa Jal. If you're struggling with your rizq, you ask Allah Ar-Razzaq, okay, for example, right? If you want Allah's forgiveness, you make dua and you use Allah's name Al-Ghaffar, Al-Ghafur, and so on and so forth. So Allah is teaching you here in the surah. And remember then, the theme of the Mu'awadat of Surah Al-Falaq and An-Nas is that you're asking Allah to protect you. So Allah is teaching you here, if you want to ask Allah for protection, the most appropriate qualities of Allah Azza wa Jal to call Him with is the Rabb and the Malik and the Ilah. So this is one of the wisdoms that the scholars teach us about Surah An-Nas. These are the qualities which you would use in your dua, or while you're reciting obviously Surah An-Nas, to ask Allah to protect you from evil. So far, all you have said in the surah is, I am seeking refuge in Allah, the one who is Rabb An-Nas, Malik An-Nas, Ilah An-Nas. But you have not yet specified what you are asking Allah to protect you from. Now recall in Surah Al-Falaq, you said, Min sharri ma khalaq, I'm asking Allah to protect me from everything which is evil, and from the evil of the darkness as it comes as it enters into the sky, and from the evil of the witches, and from the evil of the enviers. So now we're about to see in Surah An-Nas a different, aspect of asking Allah to protect you. Min sharril waswasil khannas. Min, from. Sharri, from the evil. Al-waswasi. Al-waswas literally means the one who whispers. This is what al-waswas means. Waswasa, in the Quran, Allah uses this verb sometimes in the Quran. Whispers. Okay? Al-Khannas. Al-Khannas, the one who disappears. The one who does something and then he disappears. Or then he does something and then he runs away. This is what Al-Khannas means. So all of this together, you're asking Allah to protect you from the evil of the whisperer who runs away. Now obviously, with more context over here, who is Al-Waswas? Obviously this is referencing the shaitan. Al-Waswas is one of the names which Allah Azza wa Jal refers to the shaitan. Because what does shaitan really do? Shaitan, his mission is to whisper to you. Right? He gives you, and he doesn't whisper into your ear, okay? Like I can go and whisper to your ear something, a secret. But shaitan, he whispers into you. Okay? And this is something that we're going to discuss in the next verse. And he does this all the time. throughout your entire life until the moment that you die, he's going to continue to whisper, 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 whisper every single opportunity that he finds. So he whispers a lot. So this is why he's called Al-Waswas. But he's also Al-Khannas, the one who runs away and he flees. Because whenever you mention the name of Allah, he runs away. You know, you're getting evil thoughts, you're getting bad whisperings, and so you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And all of a sudden he flees away. A place where the Quran is being recited, or you're doing your adhkar, or you're reciting al-mu'awadat. Shaitan runs away from this. He does not like a gathering where the name of Allah is mentioned, or a gathering where the angels are gathered, right? And so this is really important. You need to make sure you're protecting yourself from al-waswas, and protecting your houses as well from al-waswas. And believe me when I say that the majority of the issues which happen in our houses today is because of al-waswas. Because we are not taking the steps and precautions to protect our houses from al-waswas. So what happens? The waswas comes to you in your house, in your room, and he whispers something evil to you. And so now you do something which upsets your parents. And now the waswas comes to your mom, and he whispers to her. And now she gets really, 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 really angry, and she goes all of a sudden really crazy. And then the waswas goes to your dad, and he whispers to him. And now all of a sudden, subhanAllah, like we've all experienced this before. Sometimes nothing was happening. Everybody was sitting down. It was so peaceful and calm and everything. 10 minutes later, it's World War V in my house, and what's going on? Everybody was calm, and now all of a sudden, you have people crying, people yelling, people are angry, people are in a bad mood. What happened? Sometimes the answer is the waswas al-khannas entered your house, and he did what he's really good at, and he whispered to this person, and then he whispered to that person, and he whispered to this person and that person. We need to be conscious of this, and we need to take shaitan as a serious enemy, because honestly, he's doing a really good job. Okay? And we've mentioned this before. For example, you get in a fight with one of your friends, and all of a sudden you're on your way back home, and all of a sudden you're having an imaginary conversation with your friend. And you're like, you start imagining your friend in front of you. You start recollecting the same scenario, the same conversation that you were having. Instead of saying that, I should have said this to them. And then when I say that to them, they're going to say this back to me. And then I'm going to smoke them, and I'm going to say this back to them. And then all of a sudden your emotions are rising and you're becoming angry, even though who you're talking to. There's nobody there. You're having an imaginary conversation in your head, and this is exactly what al-waswas al-khannas does, right? And all you needed to do, this is according to another hadith of the Rasul, is just to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Ask Allah, oh Allah, protect me from a shaitan. And the shaitan will run away. And that's it. That's how weak shaitan is. But this is why he is referred to as al-waswas al-khannas. And it's an ongoing battle. And in fact, the Rasul, he mentions this, it's an authentic hadith. He spoke to the Sahaba and he says, there is nobody among you except that a qareen, a companion, qareen means a companion, has been assigned for him ever since you came into this world. Every single one of you, okay, myself included, you have a shaitan who is assigned just for you. And his job throughout your entire life is to whisper to you. And in fact, in a different hadith, the Rasul, he even clarifies this even more, and he says, there is no newborn whom his mother gives birth to, except that shaitan comes and he pricks him as well. He pricks the newborn, and as a result of this newborn, he begins crying. And this is the reason, by the way, why every single newborn who is brought into this life comes out of his mother's womb crying. Because ever since the second you enter into this world, shaitan has declared war against you. And here we learn he's also assigned the shaitan to run after you, to whisper to you, to whisper any moment that he has to get you to slip up. So the Sahaba, they were astonished by this, and they said, what about you, Ya Rasulullah? Are you also assigned the shaitan? And he says that even me, even I have a shaitan assigned to me, but he says I'm a little bit of an exception. That Allah helped me against that shaitan, and my shaitan accepted Islam. And so he says, my shaitan, or I guess he's no longer a shaitan in that case, he does waswasa only for me to do good. So he whispers to me to get up and go and do good things. But of course, none of us are like the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So don't think that, oh, I can get my shaitan to convert as well. I can get into. No, 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 no. Your shaitan, his life mission is to make you go astray, to make you miss your prayers, to make you swear, to make you disobey your parents, to make you fall into the haram. Now, how does he do this waswasa? He doesn't come and whisper to me in my ear. I don't really hear anything. So what does he do? Allah Azza wa Jal clarifies, الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ. الَّذِي is the one who. This is literally what it means. الَّذِي, the one who. يُوَسْوِسُ is the action of doing waswasa, meaning he does this, his whispering. Fi, inside. Sudur, chests. An-Nas, mankind. So we understand Allah is telling us shaitan does not whisper in your ear. Shaitan whispers directly into your chest. How does that mean? What does that really mean? The whispering of the shaitan is by him decorating the haram in front of you. So what he does is you're seeing maybe, all of a sudden you're thinking something which which is haram. But all of a sudden shaitan comes in and he decorates it for you. He makes it look like, you were missing out. Like, come on, what harm is it going to be? You're only going to do the haram just once and then you can go do istighfar after. What's the big deal? Nobody's looking at you right now. It's not a major sin. Don't worry about it. You're just going to look at this one picture. You're only going to watch this one video. You're only going to say this one thing. Or you're only going to go to this one girl or to this one boy and you're just going to say this and that to him. What's the big deal, Everybody does it anyways. You're gonna look cool. You're gonna, it's not that big deal. Come on, don't be so strict on yourself. This is what shaitan does. He is coming to you and he makes that sin to you looks like the most appealing thing in the world. He makes it seem like if you don't do that sin, you're missing out on so much pleasure. Okay? And then, of course, when it comes on the opposite side, the good deeds, he makes it look like a punishment. You're gonna get up and pray now. You prayed like an hour ago. Now you're gonna get up and pray Asr. You just prayed, bro. Like you just prayed Asr like an hour and a half ago. 30 minutes from now, you're gonna go and pray Asr. Come on, man. Like just watch another video. Play another game. Like you can play another. You can fit in another Fortnite match before you get up and go pray. He'll get you to slack off. Your Quran, leave the Quran right now. It's a little bit boring. You've had a long day. You've worked really hard. You have tons of homework, right? The excuse that everybody uses. You have tons of homework. You have a quiz. You have an exam. Right? So he'll make you remember all of these things, and all of a sudden, doing a good deed becomes so heavy for you. This is part of waswasa. This is shaitan's job. He makes the haram look so attractive and appealing, and he makes good deeds look so, like so irritating, so heavy on you. So, what's the name of that one child, the kids movie? Is it Snow White? The one they give the apple, the poisonous apple, right? So that's what shaitan does to you, right? He gives you a nice, shiny apple. He tells you, eat that apple. It's so sweet. It's so luscious. It's the most delicious apple that you will taste ever in your life. But then all he's done is all talk. You bite into that apple, and now you have poisoned your own self. Not physically, but you've literally poisoned your heart now by falling into that sin. This is exactly what shaitan does. We have to be very careful about this. However, there is also a point here that really needs to be mentioned, and the scholars, they highlight this as well. Allah Azza wa Jalla says here, fi sururi nas. Shaitan does whispering in your chest, not in your heart. But what's the difference? My heart is in my chest. What's the big difference? There's a very important difference here. It means, the scholars, they say that the whispering of shaitan, it goes around your heart. And then if you choose to accept that whispering, you are taking it into your heart. What does that mean? It means when you fall into that sin, you're the one to blame. Don't go blaming shaitan now. When you fall into that sin, When you heard the whispering and you were really enticed and tempted by shaitan and you ended up falling into the haram, don't be like, oh, it was shaitan's fault, right? No, 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 it's your fault. Shaitan was doing his job. Shaitan knows he's shaitan. Shaitan knows he's going to end up into Jahannam. Okay? But you're a Muslim and you were trying to enter to Jannah. So why did you listen to shaitan when you knew that this was the whispering of shaitan? So a person only has himself to blame if they fall into a sin. الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. Mina from al-jinnati means the jinn, okay? من الجنة والناس and mankind. And so this gives us, and this unlocks a new definition for what is shaitan, by the way. Because when we think of shaitan, we think of this invisible creature who is whispering inside me. But this verse is teaching me there is another form of shaitan. There is the human shaitan as well, who has flesh and blood like me and you, who also has a beating heart. There is the human shaitan. The human shaitan is much more dangerous than the jinn shaitan. Because the jinn shaitan is the shaitan who does the whispering to me, and I can say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, he will run away. I can go and open the Quran, I can go and do adhkar, he will not want to stay close to me. He's going to run away from me. The human shaitan will not run away when you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan. Now, how do I identify a human shaitan? Okay? How do I identify a human shaitan? Well, think very, think carefully in your life. Do you know any people who pull you away from the remembrance of Allah? Who pull you away from doing good deeds? Who pull you away from praying your salawat? Such that when you get up to pray, they start telling you, "Akhi, no, come, come hang out with us, okay?" Or when there's a haram gathering taking place, they come to you. They're like, "Brother, come join me. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna chill. We're gonna hang out, right? You don't have to do the haram. We'll go and do the haram. You don't have to fall into you don't need to do that. You can just sit down and chill with us, right? You don't have to, pray your prayers later. Don't embarrass us right now. You're going to be praying in public and people are going to be looking at us and you're going up and down. Just leave your prayers till later. But what is this then? Is this not exactly like the jinn shaitan who's telling me to go and fall into the haram and he's encouraging me to do that and he's discouraging me from doing the good deeds? And obviously, if I see this human in front of me telling me these things, I can't just be like, Astaghfirullah, bro, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. He's not going to run away. Okay? He's not going to run away from you, jump into his car and drive away from you. No, that's not how it works. This is why they're much more dangerous. Because whatever you say, they're going to keep coming after you until you physically take the steps to tell them, stop talking to me, get away from me. And so this is a reminder for us. Take a good look at your friends. Take a very, very, very good look at the people who are around you. And you need to identify who is the shaitan in your life, and you need to take the steps you need to protect yourself from those shayateen. And this is the whole point of Surah An-Nas. You're asking Allah to protect you from the evils of the shayateen, both the jinn and the mankind, and from any whisperings that happen inside you. So Surah Al-Falaq, you're asking Allah to protect you from external evils. And in Surah An-Nas, you're asking Allah to protect your heart from any internal whisperings and evil as well. So this is the quick summary of Surah Al-Falaq and An-Nas. We'll talk a little bit more next week, inshallah. Are there any questions so far about Surah Al-Falaq or An-Nas? Yes, question. Memorize Surah An-Nas. That's what you should do. If you don't know Surah An-Nas, then try to memorize Surah An-Nas. It's a very easy surah. Okay? Inshallah, a lot of people your age and even younger, even if they are non-Arabs, they've been, alhamdulillah, a lot of people can teach you Surah An-Nas, and alhamdulillah, it's only 6 verses. It's like 4 lines long. It's not a difficult surah. Any other questions? No questions? Okay. Moving on to the hadith. عن مصعب بن سعد رضي الله عنه قال رأى سعد رضي الله عنه أن له فضل على من دونه. So Mus'ab ibn Sa'd radiallahu anhu, he is the son of a famous Sahabi by the name of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, of course, is one of the 10 companions who is promised Jannah. So this is one of the best Sahaba that we're talking about. But his son was saying that Sa'd used to consider himself better than those, the hadith, the translation here is not really that good. Better than those who are inferior to him. Okay? And we'll elaborate, of course, on what that means. And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said to Sa'd, who was thinking that, and he says to him, are you helped? هل تنصرون وترزقون إلا بضعفائكم? Are you not helped or granted provision except by the virtue of your weak ones? So this is an important hadith. We learn several things from it. But obviously there are some clarifications which we need to make in this hadith, because a person can look at this hadith and misunderstand it. First and foremost, we're talking about Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas here. Okay? He is one of the 10 companions who is promised Jannah. He was one of the first converts into Islam, okay? Like one of the first, he's considered to be one of the first 10 men to enter into Islam. This was Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and he lived a long life, and he was a very righteous companion. He fought alongside the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was known for his noble characteristics. So he was known to be very brave, okay? Even in the most dangerous situations, he would not hesitate to fight his enemy, even if it meant risking his life. He was very courageous, he was very brave, and he was very kind and gentle, and he was a very generous person as well. So when the hadith is saying he used to consider himself better than those who are his inferiors, it doesn't mean, astaghfirullah, that he was feeling arrogant. That he's like, oh, I am better than these people. That's not the arrogance, astaghfirullah. We're talking again about one of the most noble Sahaba. But he thought that because I am brave and some people are not brave, and I am generous and some people are not generous, and because I am really kind and gentle with people and others are not necessarily like this, that this makes me better than them in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. And so the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam taught him here, and he's teaching us as well. Don't you ever belittle those whom you think are less than you, or less skilled than you, or weaker than you in strength, or less knowledgeable than you, or less generous than you. Don't use that as an excuse to look down on those people. Just because of what you are seeing does not mean that this is the case, okay? I might be looking at someone who, from the outside to me, doesn't know much Quran, doesn't donate a lot of money. He prays his 5 prayers, but he doesn't pray his sunnahs. And to me, I'm thinking, well, I'm doing a lot more Quran than him, and I'm praying all my salawat and all my sunnah prayers, and I donate every single day to charity. How do you know that this person has something hidden which you do not know about, which causes his rank to be higher than yours? So this is really important. And there's even a hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where one time one of the Sahaba, he wasn't a famous or a big Sahabi, he was like a you can say average Sahabi, and even you can say less than average Sahabi. And he was just walking out of the Masjid, and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointed at him, and he said, "This man is a man of Jannah. This man, I know he shall enter Jannah." And so one of the Sahaba, he was so shocked by this. And he was really intrigued and he was curious, what is that man doing that's causing him to enter Jannah? And so he went to that man and he said to him, this is an authentic hadith by the way, he said to him, he didn't tell him of course that the Rasul said that you're going to enter Jannah. He just said to him, can I stay at your home for a couple of days? I want to, just take shelter in your house. And this was, by the way, something very common back then. It was adi, like it wasn't something weird. So the man said, of course, ahlan wa sahlan, come and you can into my house. And of course, his goal was to monitor what was that man doing that's causing him to enter Jannah. And he was monitoring him, and he was really surprised as in Like he couldn't find anything. He's like, his prayers are very normal. He doesn't even pray qiyam that much at night. He doesn't do anything that's above and beyond. He's like, I pray more than this guy. I do qiyam every single night, more than this person. I'm doing much more than this. So at the end, he broke it to him and he said, look, man, the other day, the Rasul said about you that you are a man who shall enter Jannah. And I've sat with you these past couple of days, and to be honest with you, I didn't really see anything crazy that you're doing that will cause you to stand out and get such a rank that Rasul is saying that you shall enter Jannah. So can you think of anything that you're doing that may cause the Rasul to say this about you? So the man, he paused for a minute. He started thinking and thinking and thinking. And he said, I can't really think of anything, but maybe there's one thing. If anything, there's maybe one thing. And he says, every single night before I go to bed, I choose to forgive every single person who has done something wrong to me. And he says, maybe that's why. And obviously, this was the reason why. So the point here is, one of the great Sahaba who was praying every day, charity, knowledge, qiyamul layl, doing all of these good deeds. And subhanAllah, another person, now of course we're not going to say that one person was better than the other, but another person from the outside, he doesn't look like such a pious Muslim. He's just like very average or maybe below average even. Yet he's doing one thing secretly in his life that in the eyes of Allah has taken him to Jannah. So this, now we bring it back to the hadith. Don't you ever think just because you have memorized the Quran really well and you have good recitation, or because you are really, really knowledgeable in Islam, or because you are really generous, or because you are really kind and helpful to other people, don't think that this immediately puts you at a rank above other people. That's not for you to decide. And in fact, the Rasul ﷺ is teaching us something here, that victory and rizq comes through those who are weaker than you and less capable than you. How come? Now we get into this concept of achieving your goals. Now, what does that have to do with anything? I'll tell you in a second. When you want to achieve any goal you have in your life, let's say your goal is you want to be the best student in your class, or your goal is to memorize the entire Quran, or your goal is to become very successful and to earn a very high-paying job in the future. And everyone here, you have a goal. So what are the steps as a Muslim that you must take to achieve any goal? First and foremost, obviously, you must take the physical steps. And this is, of course, what the majority of mankind, they consume their time with. They take the physical steps. So obviously, if you want to be the best student in your class, then you must spend the time studying. You must listen to your teacher. You must be doing your homework. Okay? You need to take if you want to become a hafiz of the Quran, a memorizer of the Quran, then you need to put the effort. You need to get up and open the Quran and start listening to the recitation of Quran and then reciting to a Quran teacher and whatnot. So you need to take the steps. But obviously for a Muslim, that's not it. That's only half of the equation. You also must put your reliance on Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? You must rely upon Allah Azza wa Jal to achieve your goal. Now, the person who is capable and has the ability and the strength and the person has what it takes to take the physical steps, usually that person will consume themselves with taking those kind of steps. But what about the person who does not have that kind of ability? What about the elderly person who does not have the physical ability to move, or the disabled person, or the person who is sick, right? They also have certain goals that they are trying to achieve and they're trying to work towards, but sometimes their weaknesses or their helplessness prevents them from being able to take the physical measures to achieve that goal. So naturally, their reliance on Allah Azza wa Jal becomes much more greater than someone who is physically able to take the physical steps. You guys understand what I'm saying? So their reliance on Allah Azza wa Jal by default means that they're going to be making more dua, that they're going to be praying more, that they're going to be begging Allah more. Like they're relying more on Allah. Okay? Yani they are unable to do whatever it takes by themselves. So as a result of their dua and their sincerity and their weaknesses and maybe their poverty, as a result, Allah Azza wa Jal brings down the provision and the help and the victory through them. And as a result, the entire society feels the benefit. So this is really important. We must never brush aside someone who you might think they're not accomplishing much. Okay, so someone you might see on a wheelchair, or someone who might be a really old person who's maybe has suffering through some physical disease, some diseases or some medical conditions or whatnot. And in your eyes, you might think that this person, yeah, miskeen, haram, he doesn't accomplish much in his life. And whereas you have the physical ability, alhamdulillah, you can go to school, you can do this, you can do that. Well, don't underestimate the role. You might not physically see what they are bringing, what kind of benefits that they're bringing, but Allah and the Rasul ﷺ here, they're telling you they are bringing to you benefits that you are unable to see. How? And that is the rizq of Allah Azza wa Jal down to us and the victory as well. So this hadith is teaching you, don't look down on anyone in society. Not and the looking down here, I don't mean that looking down in terms of arrogance. This is something dangerous. We discussed it before. I'm saying looking down in terms of, oh, I am more beneficial to other people than this person. Or I have this quality and this person doesn't have this quality, which means I am more beloved to Allah than this person. You don't know what benefit this person is bringing to you, whether it's directly or indirectly, whether they are, whether you can see what the benefits are bringing or whether you cannot. This is really the whole point of this hadith over here. Any questions about the hadith, or is everything clear, or is nothing clear but you just don't even know what to ask? Okay. Yes. It's not necessarily sinful. Okay. So when you look at someone who is poor, and you say, oh, such a poor, he's a poor person. This is not a sin. Okay, you're not backbiting him. He's a poor person, but that should not make you think that, oh, because I am rich and I'm able to donate, and I am a better person than this person. This is what the hadith here is saying. Okay, you don't know that what this person goes through or what he's doing or what connection he has with Allah, that maybe he's at a completely different level. Maybe he's the most pious person in all of Calgary and you don't even know it. Okay? So always walk with a humble attitude in front of everybody, and always realize that every single person in the Muslim community, they have a role to play, whether you are able to see what their benefits they're providing or whether you are not. Other questions? Okay, in the back, yes, you have a question? If he does not like to be described in a certain way, then you should not describe him in that way. Okay? Um, okay, yani, so, yeah. Yes? Sorry, what was the question? What, wrestling? Whistling. Okay. Uh, okay, I didn't hear it. This, I guess, guys, please, no, don't whistle because clearly you're distracting people in the front. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on, inshallah. This hadith that you see up on the screen, inshallah, we will share it in the group chat as usual. If you are not part of that group chat, then make sure you let us know after the class so that we can add you inside the group chat. What does al-waswas al-khannas mean? Ahmed? The whisperer who disappears or retreats upon the mention of Allah. Is the human or the jinn shaitan more dangerous? And explain. Yes, exactly. The human shaitan is more dangerous. They don't flee when you say, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem." How does shaitan do whispering? Like, what is exactly the whispering of shaitan? Yes, Anas. So yes, and he makes the haram look really appealing, and he makes the good deeds not look very appealing. Who is at fault when a person falls into a sin? Is it a shaitan or is it the person? And explain your answer. Um, yes, over there. Yeah. Is it so? It's shaitan's fault that I did a sin. It's the person's fault. Very good. Okay, so it's the person's fault. Shaitan is, of course, is not innocent. He's the one who did the whispering, but the person is the one who acted upon that sin. Okay, so don't play the blame game with shaitan. Why did Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas think that he had the advantage over other people? Yes, Yusuf. Exactly. Like he viewed himself as someone who was brave and kind and generous, which he was. Okay, but he thought that gave him an advantage over other people. And the Rasul ﷺ, of course, told him that they also have, those who are, helpless also have a benefit. If a person wants to achieve a goal, what steps must they take? What are the two things that they should do to achieve a goal? Yes, over there in the back. So there's the physical steps, okay, which is to go and do something. And what's the second one? You said relying on Allah Azza wa Jal. Very good. So you take the physical or verbal steps, and then you also put your reliance on Allah. Why did the Rasul ﷺ emphasize that provisions are granted by the virtue of the helpless? Like, um, like what's the point of this statement over here? Yes. So you're right. Okay, you're right. So realize when we're talking about the helpless, we're talking about people who aren't able to take the physical steps to achieve a certain goal, right? So therefore, they have to rely on Allah much more than a normal person, I guess. And so therefore, Allah Azza wa Jal rewards them and everyone, I guess, by bringing the rizq and the victory down. Any questions about this? Yes. So you're right. Okay. It does not come one or the other. They both go hand in hand. Okay. A Muslim always has tawakkul on Allah Azza wa Jal, but a person must take the steps as well. Like I cannot simply do tawakkul on Allah and say, Allah surely will help me through my situation. Allah surely will give me money and give me a good health and give me this and that. When I myself am sitting down on the couch and I'm not trying to do anything to solve my problems. This is the point here. So you cannot have one or the other. Both of them must exist at the same time. Okay? Other questions? And the reason, by the way, why I mentioned tawakkul after you do the effort is because once you put in the effort, then you say, look, Ya Allah, I did everything that I could do. And now, Allah, Ya Allah, I'm leaving the rest to you. Okay? Not that you didn't have tawakkul on Allah at the start, but you understand what I'm saying? Kind of, sort of. Questions? Okay. So last week we were discussing Eid Salah, right? We were talking about Eid Salah, and we talked about how to actually perform the Eid Salah. and when what is Eid in the first place. And we mentioned the importance of celebrating Eid, right? It's an Islamic celebration, and we don't celebrate the other celebrations. We mentioned that it's a place, or sorry, it's a time, it's a prayer where everybody gathers together, men, women, children, even the women who are in their menses, they are still encouraged to come and join the gathering, even if they are unable to pray. So it's a time of enjoyment for everybody. And we mentioned basically the salah takes place. It's two rak'ahs. It's a loud salah. In the first rak'ah, it's Surah Al-A'la or Surah Al-Munafiqun or Surah Qaf and Al-Qamar. The second rak'ah. And we mentioned that there are takbirat of Al-Eid. After the first, in the first rak'ah, there's 7 total takbirat, and in the second rak'ah there are 6 total takbirat, right? So um, I think that's where we stopped last week. So today, inshallah, we're going to talk about the sunnahs of Eid Salah, or Eid in general. What are some things that you should do on the day of Eid? And guys, please pay attention to this, because if I ever see you walk into a Eid Salah and you look like a homeless person, then we're going to have some problems, okay? Especially now that you're attending these classes and you're learning these things. So, first and foremost, one of the sunnahs of Eid is to actually eat an odd number of dates. Okay? Everybody here knows what dates are, right? No? You're so funny, bro. So you guys know what dates are. Do you guys know what odd numbers are? No? Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, you know, good job, good job. Sit down. Anyways, so the sunnah is to eat an odd number of dates. So you can eat one date, you can eat 3 or 5, or for health reasons, try not to go crazy. 7, 9, 11, that's too much. Okay. There is a report, an authentic report by Anas Malik radiallahu anhu, where he says, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would not go out on the day of Eid al-Fitr, and of course we also Eid al-Adha, until he had eaten some dates, and he would eat an odd number of dates. Okay, so basically, after you pray Fajr on the morning of Eid, you should, snack on a couple, or not a couple, I guess, 1 or 3 dates, or more than that if you want, but be careful, don't go too crazy. Okay, so this is one of the sunnahs of Eid. Of the sunnahs of Eid as well is to walk towards Eid prayer. Walking towards Eid prayer. There is a report by Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. He says the sunnah is to go out to the Eid prayer walking. Now, of course, in today's time, what if the masjid is a 30-minute drive from my house? So you're telling me I need to walk for like 3 hours, wearing my Eid clothing, all the way over there to the masjid? No. Okay. So again, but what you should try to do, so like if you are someone who lives far away, or you're not walking distance from the masjid, or it's not feasible for you to walk, then what you can do is to park from a distance from the masjid. Okay, don't park at the masjid parking, or the wherever the center parking, whatever you're going to pray Eid. Okay, don't park in the parking next to the building. Park a few blocks away, such that you can fulfill the sunnah of walking towards the Eid prayer. Of the sunnahs which we are all familiar with is reciting takbiratul Eid. Okay, takbiratul Eid. Of course, and we all know this. Or maybe we've all taken part in this before. We say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. Right? And by the way, the sunnah is up till here. Whatever you hear, sometimes some masajid, they started saying, oh, Allahu Akbar kabira, walhamdulillahi kathira, wa subhanallah, and they go on and on and on and on and on. This is not part of the takbirat that the Rasul used to do, by the way. So the proper takbirat is just that portion, the one that I just recited in front of you. Okay? So this is one mistake that people sometimes make. You can start reciting your takbirat as soon as you walk out of Fajr prayer. And you're supposed to recite those takbirat until the time of Eid prayer. Once Eid prayer is done, There is no more takbirat, mashallah. Some people are already celebrating Eid and doing takbirat right now. Allahumma barik. The sunnah is to recite takbiratul Eid, and this is another mistake some people make. For men, it should be out loud. Okay? For men, it should be out loud. For the ladies, it should be quiet. Okay? So if the ladies' side is louder than the men's side, then we have a problem. Okay? So, the point here is that you're reciting the takbirat. It's not that you're forming a choir together and you're all of you in one sound together. You're saying the takbirat really, really loud. Okay? And by the way, in fact, this is not from the sunnah as well. This is another mistake that is done. And you find this all the time in even the masajid. The sunnah is to do takbiratul Eid by yourself. You're not supposed to be doing them together as a group. You know how sometimes you go to the Eid prayer in the masjid, you're waiting for the Eid prayer, and then the entire masjid is saying takbiratul Eid in one voice, right? This is against the sunnah. The sunnah is to do your takbirat individually, okay? So don't be on one extreme where you don't do any takbirat, where you're too cool to do takbirat and you're just gonna chill on your phone like you guys are doing right now, and you're gonna be playing your video games and texting and this and this and that, and you're like, takbir, Eid, whatever. Okay? No, you're not cool, bro. Okay? You're only cool if you do takbirat al-Eid. So do takbirat al-Eid. Do it out loud, okay? Don't be shy, okay? For the men, don't be shy, do it out loud. For the women, no, be shy, do it quietly, okay? And you continue to do takbirat al-Eid until the time of Salatul Eid. And as I mentioned, you do not do it together in a jama'ah. So this is one of the sunnahs and one of the joys of Eid. SubhanAllah, I remember when back in the day, when I was a bit younger, back in the Middle East, where Eid usually tends to be celebrated a little bit more than here. One of my best memories is just going crazy on takbirat al-Eid and competing with other people who can do it louder and whatnot. SubhanAllah. So it's one of the joys of Eid. So by you saying like, I'm not going to take out Eid, you're ruining the vibe, okay? You're just that one person right now. It's just like really ruining the vibe. So make sure you're also vibing with the rest of the people in Eid. Yes, we'll take questions later, inshallah, just so that we don't interrupt the flow. Of the sunnahs of Eid as well, you go to the Eid prayer using one route and you go back home using a different route. This is another sunnah of Eid. Okay, so basically if you take one road to go to the masjid, then when you go back home, try to take a different road to go back home. This is another sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we find this reported in this authentic hadith as well. Of the sunnahs as well, which I did not mention, I don't know why. I was planning to write it down. I think I had it in my head and I didn't write it down. To perform ghusl in the morning of Eid, before you come to the masjid, okay? So if you come and you're smelling all like sweat, or you're smelling like onions and garlic from your mom's cooking from last night, then brother, we got a problem, okay? So please make sure you shower in the morning, you do a ghusl, and you clean yourself, okay? It's the day of Eid. Make sure you look appealing, okay? Your hair is neat, you're untidy, you're combed. For the boys, you've had a haircut, you're looking nice and clean, you're wearing clean clothing as well, and new clothing ideally, right? It's the day of Eid, it's the day of celebration. You're wearing a special piece of clothing. So I swear, if I see any of you guys walking into the masjid with a pajama, you're going to experience the last Eid in your life. Okay? So please guys, enjoy, make sure you get into the vibe of Eid, come to the masjid presentable, and right, it's a day of Eid. So of the things as well, we'll conclude inshallah the issue of Eid, or the topic of Eid right now. Of the things as well that we should be aware of related to Eid Salah is that Eid prayer does not have any adhan or any iqamah. Okay? So unlike normal prayers, Eid does not have any adhan or any iqamah. Jabir radiallahu anhu, he reported, I prayed Eid prayer with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot of times, and he would begin the prayer before the khutbah. We mentioned this last week, and he would not do adhan or iqamah. So there is no adhan or iqamah for Eid Salah. Of the things as well is, let's say you wake up late. Okay, you wake up late for Eid Salah. And honestly, yani today they do like so many different Eid prayers in so many different parts of Calgary. You have no excuse to be missing Eid prayer. But let's say you just overslept and you missed all of the Eid prayers that were taking place. Can I just get up and do wudu and pray Eid prayer in my house with my family? The answer is no. Okay? The Eid prayer is a sunnah. It's not sunnah to make up the Eid prayer. It's a prayer that is meant to be done in a gathering. Okay? It's in one way it's like a tarawih. Okay? Even the tarawih, yes, you can pray it by yourself or at home with your family. Not that Eid prayer is different. Eid prayer, as we mentioned, it's a big gathering where everybody comes, men and women and children. Everybody's supposed to take part in this prayer. But once that prayer is done, it's a sunnah prayer, so there is no such thing as I'm going to make up that prayer, okay? And definitely you're not allowed to be, or you should not be offering it individually, okay? You don't start doing takbirat by yourself and offering the Eid prayer. What else can be said here? Of the issues which does have a difference among the scholars as well, is when Eid, the day of Eid coincides with a Friday. When the Eid prayer, when the day of Eid coincides with a Friday. And again, I give you the disclaimer, there is a difference amongst the scholars. However, the opinion which I follow, and is an acceptable opinion, which is according to one group of the scholars, if the day of Jumu'ah and the day of Eid coincide together, then if you pray Eid in the morning, you do not have to pray Jumu'ah. It is a sunnah, it becomes a sunnah, a recommended sunnah for you to go and pray Jumu'ah. Okay? And there's a Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he says this in a hadith, that those of you who pray the Eid basically, then you do not have to pray Jumu'ah, but we will still be praying Jumu'ah. So he's still encouraged that you should go and pray Jumu'ah. But just in case you hear it from anywhere, then this is something actually that exists. Okay, it's a valid opinion. Some other group of scholars, they say that no, Jumu'ah is a fard, it's an obligation, that even if it's Eid is a sunnah, and Jumu'ah is the fard, therefore there is no excuse for you to miss the Jumu'ah. So again, I'm just putting it out there. These are different opinions from different scholars. So, any questions related to Eid? Yes?
And like a bunch of different like these are big.
So if there is going to be a big gathering, okay, a gathering where the community knows that there's going to be a Eid prayer, then yes, you can gather all together and you can pray Eid prayer together. But again, Eid prayer is not supposed to be a family prayer, okay? It's a whole community prayer. So by me just calling my cousin's house and my other cousin and be like, yeah, Allah guys, come over to my house, let's pray Eid together, this defeats the purpose. Okay? Question? It's the same idea. So if you miss it, you don't make it up. Muhammad? If you're traveling, we mentioned this last week, Eid, you do not have to pray Eid prayer. Question? I'm sorry? I cannot hear anything you're saying. Where's your voice? Okay, so is it obligatory for parents to give their kids Eidiyah? Oh, mashallah, this is lucky to go home and be like, yallah, mom, dad, pay up. Mashallah. It's not obligatory, okay? So sorry to break your heart. But it's recommended for parents to make their kids happy. Whether that's gonna make them happy with an idea or a gift or by taking them out. And similarly, by the way, the kids are supposed to make their parents happy as well, by the way. So it's not just you who's receiving your idiyah and then you're going away. No, it works both ways, Habibi. So, and by the way, also idiyah is applicable for me as well. So if you want to make me happy, you can come or give me your idiyah, inshallah. Yes, in the back. Why is it sunnah that? That's simply the definition of sunnah is we're following the way that the Rasul ﷺ used to do things. So, and I get rewarded for it. So there is no real reason other than the Rasul ﷺ did it that way, and so we eat an odd number of dates. Boys, can we please sit down and please quiet down because I need to hear the question. No, he simply did it that way. Yes. Yes, the subhanAllah, the Sahaba, and even the wives of the Rasul ﷺ would pay very close attention to every single action of the Rasul ﷺ. How he walks, how he sits, how he enters the washroom, how he exits the washroom, everything, so that they can follow the Sunnah as much as possible. Okay, so they in some situations, yes, they would literally count, and they would see that this is he would eat an odd number of dates. Question. Let's take your question first.
Is it obligatory for a man to pray?
No, so again, Eid prayer is a sunnah prayer. Eid prayer is a sunnah prayer, but it's a sunnah where everybody's encouraged to go. Okay? Yes, question? $10,000? Yeah, والله, I don't know what to tell you, ya akhi. Inshallah, just keep dreaming, ya akhi. Inshallah. Go, maybe ask it from your parents, ya akhi. We'll see what happens, inshallah. May Allah make it easy. Yes? Some scholars would say yes. Some scholars would categorize saying takbir together altogether, they would categorize it as an innovation. And so they would say innovations are haram and therefore you should not be doing it. So either way, just avoid it, okay? Put yourself on the safe side and do takbir by yourself, okay? Other questions? Okay, moving on inshallah, let's wrap up with the seerah. Last week we were talking about the events which led up to the Battle of Uhud, right, boys in the back? The events which led up to the Battle of Uhud, we mentioned that there were 3,000 soldiers coming towards Medina. We mentioned that the Rasul ﷺ, he consulted with the people in Medina of what they should do. Initially, he said we should fight within Medina, within the streets of Medina, but then a lot of the youth, boys in the back, please. And I don't know what party you guys are doing. Maybe it's Eid for you guys already. Go celebrate your Eid outside. Jazakumullah khair. Anyways, what was I saying? So he was preparing basically for the incoming attack, and he decided, of course, that he was going to go out to the mountain of Uhud. We mentioned some of the blessings of the mountain of Uhud last week. If you remember, we decided it's the mountain of Jannah. It is a mountain which loves us, and we love it as well. And we several things. It's one of the landmarks of one of the borders of Medina as well. Is considered to be the Jabal Uhud as well. So many things about Uhud. The primary reason, however, why they decided to choose the mountain of Uhud as a place of fighting, it was not a random decision. Okay, where they weren't just like, okay, khalas, let's just go to Uhud and fight. No, there was something special about the structure of the mountain of Uhud. Now, as we mentioned, that Uhud is a very big, it's a set of mountains, it's a big, big set of mountains. Okay, and I encourage you, inshallah, when you go home tonight, look up on Google Maps mountain of Uhud, and you will see like a picture of it on top, and you will see that in the base of the mountain you will see that there are two sides which are covered. So like the mountain naturally protects two sides. Like if I were to be standing, like think of it this way, okay? And this is not a very accurate representation, but pretend that I am sitting where the Muslims are camping, and this is one wall of the mountain, and this is another wall of the mountain. The curtain's over here, okay? So naturally, okay, well, it's not technically three sides, but like you get the point, okay? So there's two sides which are surrounding the Muslim camp. So they know that the enemy is not going to attack them from this side, and they're not going to attack from that side. So that's one reason why they chose Uhud. Another reason why they chose Uhud is because close to the mountain of Uhud, not on the mountain of Uhud, a few, maybe 100 meters away from the mountain or so, there is a much smaller mountain. Today, it's become basically just a small hill. And this would later be known as the mountain of Ar-Rumah, Jabal al-Rumah, or the mount, in English is translated to the mountain of the archers. Has anyone here, by the way, today visited Uhud before? Have you guys ever done a tour of Uhud? Have you guys seen Jabal al-Rumah, the mountain of Ar-Rumah? Yes. So, again, if you've seen it, you've seen it. You haven't seen it, go look it up on Google Maps, and you will see it very, very clearly. But what's so special about the mountain of Ar-Rumah? It's positioned in such a location, close to the mountain, such that if you were to put some archers on top of this mountain, you can use now this mountain to protect a third side. Okay? So this is, of course, the strategy of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He's not just doing a random strategy. It's 1,000 versus 3,000. So this is a very big difference between the friends and the enemies, right? So by taking these steps, he is now protecting himself from three sides. Two sides from the mountain, and one side by assigning some people to go on the mountain of Ar-Rumah. Okay? So this is the primary reason why they chose the mountain of Uhud. Now, even though it sounds like the perfect plan, and it sounds like, the Muslim... Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله So, just to continue, I was saying, so this is basically the main reason why they chose the mountain of Uhud, because, of the structure and the layout. Now, once the Muslims decided on the plan, and the Rasul ﷺ, gathered the army of 1,000 people, and he began moving towards Uhud. So remember, all of this is happening on a Friday, right? Remember the Friday he discussed with them and gathered them and took their opinion and whatnot. So he gathered the same army in the same day, and then he began walking towards the mountain of Uhud so they can prepare themselves for the attack. Now, however, something took place in the middle. While they were moving towards the mountain of Uhud, there was a group of quote-unquote Muslims who were at the back of the army. And they were quietly whispering and mumbling between each other. And eventually they slowed down, and eventually they completely broke off away from the army. And their numbers were not few, they were 300 people. And their leader was none other than Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. And this is for the first time we're going to see the true colors of the hypocrites. The people, hypocrites. What makes a hypocrite into a hypocrite? A hypocrite is someone who on the outside pretends that he's a Muslim, but inside he has no interest in Islam and he hates Islam. This is a hypocrite. And so now for the first time we're getting a glimpse of who are the hypocrites. So Abdullah ibn Ubay and this group of 300 people, they began backing away and they withdrew from the army. They did not want to fight. And subhanAllah, what was the reasoning? Abdullah ibn Ubay, remember last week we were saying when the Rasul ﷺ was asking the people for what they think they should do, Abdullah ibn Ubay, he actually agreed with the opinion of the Rasul ﷺ. He said, we should fight them inside Medina. Right? You guys remember? And now he's seeing from his perspective that, the Rasul ﷺ ignored me and he rejected my opinion, even though I, Abdullah ibn Ubay, I gave him my opinion and I said we should do this, but he chose to ignore me and he chose to listen to the opinion of a bunch of younger people who don't have any experience. So he didn't listen to me, so why should I listen to him? SubhanAllah, this was the mentality of Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, along with the people who were with Abdullah. And so eventually they started backing off and they completely broke off away from the army. Eventually one of the companions, actually, he was riding his horse and he came back to them. And he said to them, he spoke to Abdullah and the group, and he says to them, guys, I am warning you, you should not leave, you should fear Allah, and you should not turn your backs on the Rasul ﷺ when he is in need of your help. And there's people, we're about to be attacked. And subhanAllah, even if you don't like the guy, even if you don't like Islam, remember you gave a promise. All of them, they gave a promise. They promised that we would fight against an external attack that is coming from Medina. Then at least go and fight to protect your own place, to protect your own city. And so Abdullah ibn Ubay, he responded, and subhanAllah, Allah chose to record his response in the Quran, in Surah Al Imran. And by the way, the bulk of Surah Al Imran, the second half of the surah, the long Surah Al Imran, has to do with the Battle of Uhud. So a lot of it talks about it. And one of the verses, Allah Azza wa Jalla quotes Abdullah ibn Ubay when he says, لَوْ نَعْلَمُ قِتَالًا لَاتَّبَعْنَاكُمْ. He basically says, if we knew that there was going to be a fight, then definitely we would be staying and we would be fighting. But we basically don't think that there's going to be a real fight. So he's basically making up a flimsy excuse to say that, we're only going back because we don't think that there's actually going to be a fight. But of course, this is just a very flimsy excuse. And so the 300 of them returned back to Medina. Now 300 out of 1,000, this is a big chunk of the army. And now you have 700 soldiers that are about to fight 3,000 people. So now this is the worst case scenario. And in fact, these 700 people, they began debating, what should we do? Some of them were arguing, let's turn around right now and fight these 300 people, because they are our enemies and they are traitors. And some of them, they said, no, we should continue forward and we should go and fight against the enemy. Obviously, that's what they ended up doing. They continued towards Uhud. But some of them, they were also hesitant. Some of them were about to also turn back. But eventually, their iman and their faith in Allah, that's what kept them steadfast, and they remained within the army. So eventually, after this incident, 700 people continued towards the mountain of Uhud, where they set camp and they began preparing for the battle which would take place the next morning, the morning of the Saturday. And this is where we get a very famous incident which took place in the Battle of Uhud. This is a very, very well-known incident, where the Rasul ﷺ, he commanded 50 archers. Okay, you guys know what archers are? It's the people who shoot arrows from their bow. Yeah. So he assigned 50 soldiers from the Muslims to go up on this mountain of Ar-Rumah to protect against any attacks that were going to come from behind. Okay, so the Rasul ﷺ understands that by us camping at Uhud, we have a big weakness, and that is one side is completely exposed. And so the enemy can use that weakness and they can ambush us from behind. But if we put these 50 archers on the mountain, they can look out for any ambushes and they can protect us from any surprise attacks, and that would basically cover up our weakness and we can focus our attack on one direction only. So it was a very, very smart plan. And he commanded the 50 archers, and he was very clear and strict with his wording, and he says, you are not allowed to leave this mountain for any reason unless I come to you and I say so. He says, even, and subhanAllah, just to give you how strict this order was, he says, even if you were to see the crows, you guys know the crows and the vultures, even if you were to see birds eating our dead bodies, don't leave the mountain. Like, even if you're seeing us with your own two eyes, you're seeing us being defeated and getting killed, don't leave the mountain for any reason. And of course, he said he was being strict for a reason. As I mentioned, if the 50 archers don't do their job, this is a huge weakness for the Muslims, because anyone can come and attack the Muslims from behind. And of course, we're going to see that this is actually exactly what ended up happening in the Battle of Uhud, which is what led to the catastrophe of the Battle of Uhud. But we're going to discuss that, inshallah, in the upcoming weeks. Are there any questions about this? Okay, so let's say a person woke up late on the day of Eid and he missed the Eid prayer. So he decided to make wudu and he prayed Eid by himself. Is this correct? Why or why not? Let's see. Yes. Okay, very good. So why not? What should he have done? You don't know. Okay, so I mean, you're correct. The Eid prayer is not prayed individually. Okay, you're always supposed to pray Eid in a group. Okay. How many dates should be eaten on the morning of Eid? Yes, the gray hoodie in the back. Yeah. Huh? Odd number. An odd number. Very good. So 1, 3, 5. What is the sunnah for going towards Eid prayer? If you're going to the actual masjid or the place, what is the sunnah? Someone who has not answered. Yeah, second row over there. Walking to the masjid, and when you come back, also take a different route. Okay? What is the proper way to say the takbir in the morning of Eid? Yes, in the front. Yeah. Yeah? Forgot. Adam? Very good. And it should be done individually as well, not in a group. Why did the Rasul ﷺ choose to camp at Uhud? What was special about it? You want to answer? No? Yes? Over there, yeah. It's protected by two sides, and also there was the mountain of Ar-Rumah, which they can take advantage of. How did the Rasul ﷺ plan to use the mountain of Aruna? Yes, Muhammad in the middle. Exactly. He wanted to station 50 archers on the mountain to guard the Muslims from any surprise attacks. How many people left the army from the Muslim side? Um, yes. Mhm. 300 people left the army. Why did Abdullah ibn Ubay not want to join the army? What was his reasoning? Uh, yes. Well, it's not just he doesn't want to get killed, but like there's something more specific that we talked about. Ayub, yes. Awesome. Very good. So basically, he felt like his opinion was disregarded, and he was like, "So he didn't listen to me. Why should I listen to him?" And he also made an excuse, and he said, like, "Oh, if I knew that there was going to be any fighting, I would have stayed." So, with that said, inshallah, we will pick this up next week.